Hello everyone, welcome back. We're doing a little bit more shooting today with this new scope I have in from Primary Arms. This is the SLX Griffin grid. Yeah, I'll give you guys a close-up over here. I did a detailed video on this scope already. So now basically I'm working with it today. I'm shooting 200 yards. By the way, I one of the questions that I had in the first video that I did on the scope was if the scope was waterproof with the caps removed. Okay, and I did get a response back from Primary Arms customer service, and they informed me that rather the engineers have informed the customer service person that that this scope was designed to be waterproof with the caps removed, so you can dial in the rain and zero in the rain, and that'll be fine. So thank you very much for getting back to me on that. Today we're shooting at 200 yards with this 9mm, right? So this is a Palmetto PX9, a 9mm AR. One of the great things about using this scope with the Griffin grid on a 9mm AR is that it allows you to really start using that grid at relatively close distances. Because, you know, if I was using a 5.56 out to 200 yards, there's really no adjustment to be made, right? A 50-yard zero is a 200-yard zero. But with the 9mm, you know, we have to really start using that grid. So let me share with you guys some data I've been collecting. And all this data wasn't just collected, you know, over the last couple of days. I've been working with 9mm ARs for a while. So with a 25-yard zero, we get a second zero at 75 yards. At 100 yards, our point of aim is inside of the arrow. Okay, so you gotta use the inside of that chevron. Put that on your bullseye to hit. At 150 yards, that's where things really start getting interesting, and you really start seeing some drop. At 150 yards, I'm using the 2mm mark. Okay, so the second mill, which is basically the first horizontal line in your grid. Okay. Now, if you have a 10-mile-per-hour wind, that's a full value, right? Coming in sideways, that's a half-mil adjustment. So that would kind of be like, you know, halfway between the spine and your first dot on the grid, which is kind of like where that bar ends, because they have the horizontal bar so that you can range estimate somebody based on the size of the width of their shoulder. So that would be like basically the end of that bar. Okay, so so at 150 yards, we're at the 2mm. At 200 yards, right, we got a pretty good drop there. At 200 yards, we are at the 4mm, right? So the 4mm is one line above the barbell. I've been already testing this out for a few days, and I have found that to be pretty accurate if you're using a 25-yard zero. Right, now if you have a 10-mile-per-hour wind, you're just inside of the 1mm mark. Okay, so you're just not on it. I think just inside it. Now the wind is like one of those things where it really has to be tested a lot. Wind is not very consistent, you know. So you can have the wind doing different stuff here, different stuff downrange. With 5.56, we kind of have that kind of figured out, right? Because lots of people shoot 5.56, lots of people, you know, shoot 5.56 at distance. Lots of people have collected and posted data. But with the 9mm, not that many people shoot 9mm at distance. So, you know, I don't even think we have that much value information on the just the bullet drops. But we definitely don't have much information on the wind holes. Okay, so I'm kind of putting this information out there to start building up a database. If you guys got different numbers, please post them. Right, so anyway, as I was saying, 150 yards we're using the 2mm, 200 yards we're using 4mm. Now at 300 yards, which I haven't tested with this scope, but I have tested that with a red dot that has a 65 MOA circle. And when I was doing it with the red dot, basically, again, with a 25-yard zero, the bottom of the circle, right, was going to the top of the target, right? And it was a big target. It was like a man-sized target. So basically, the bottom of that circle was going to the top at the target. And what I did is I put the scope and another scope, another rifle that has circle dot side by side, and you know, I can see that that when I match it up, looking at a similar target, what I suspect it would be is at 300 yards, I would have to go 10 mils. I'd have to use the very bottom of that mill grid and put that to the top of my target. So if I have a man-sized target with a 9mm, the 10th mil would go right here to his head or on top of his head, and that should drop the bullet's center mass. That much I've done. Like I said, I've done that with a different scope, and I can see that the measurements kind of line up. As far as the wind, I can only guess based on the pattern that I'm seeing above that at 300 yards with a 10-mile-per-hour wind, it would be a 4 mils. Okay, if you have a full value wind, it would be a 4 mils, and at that distance with 9mm, you're basically just doing suppression fire. But hey, I mean, in order for your suppression fire to be effective, it has to be in the ballpark, right? I mean, because if you got your bad guys here and the bullets are hitting like 50 feet that way, yeah, that's not going to scare them. All right, the bullets need to be landing in the general area for that suppression fire to be effective. Okay, so that's where I'm thinking that will be at 300 yards. 10 mils down, right? That's your point of aim. And then for a 10-mile-per-hour wind, it would be, full value, it would be 4 mils. Now, the reason why I use the 10-mile-per-hour winds, I just memorized those numbers because if I have, let's say, a 5-mile-per-hour wind, I cut these numbers in half. If I have, let's say, a 20-mile-per-hour wind, I double it, right? Or if my wind is coming in diagonally, I also cut it in half. So it's really easy to work off of the 10-mile-per-hour wind numbers if you've got those memorized, right? So that's why I focus on the 10-mile-per-hour. So anyway, today we're shooting 200 yards here. The ammunition that I'm using is the cheapest shit I could find. Sergeant Major. Basically what this is it's Tula. Okay, it's Tula with a zinc coating. This is what it looks like, zinc coated Tula. So I mean, if you got better ammo, maybe you'll do a little bit better. If you got worse ammo, maybe you'll do a little bit worse. But that's what I'm working with today. I mean, when I was hitting the 300 yards, this is what I was using. So it works pretty good for me. I think at 300 yards, I got I had a 15-inch cluster at 300 yards with this ammunition, and I think I had one flyer that pushed it out to 18 inches. So I think it's pretty decent. But anyway, that's what we're using today. According to the wind ribbons over here, it looks like they're hanging straight down. And let's see, if I look down range, I don't see my, zoom back a little bit. I don't see my wind ribbons moving much down there, so we don't have much wind that we're working with. One of my viewers had asked me what I use for wind ribbons, and basically just flagging tape, right? This is Presco. I got it at Lowe's, I think it was like $3. So basically I just tied this around trees, tree branches. And basically the way this works is, that's a 0 wind. If it's out here, that's 20 miles per hour. And then you just divide it, so that's 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, so and I hang lots of them because sometimes they'll get caught up in things or whatever. So that's why I hang lots of wind ribbons in an area that I'm going to be shooting. And I don't just look at one, I look at a few. So anyway, let me zoom you guys out. And let's see if we can get any hits. See what kind of a day we're gonna have today, because I'm telling you, with 9mm at 200 yards, the target I'm shooting is 2 inches tall by 2 feet tall by 2 feet wide. All right, so it's a decent sized target, but it's not an easy target for 9mm. So you see with the green barrels over there, if you follow that line straight up, you'll see like kind of halfway up. Let me try and center this a little bit more. Put it towards the center a little bit more. There you go. Now it's in the center. Okay, so you see like a white box, a white square with a red line going down the center. That's where your target is. So what you guys are basically listening for is the dings. Okay, you're listening to dings, and that I'm listening to dings too because I have my electronic earmuffs, so I can hear the dings better. So like I said, we're using the 4 mil mark on this with a 25-yard 0. So I'm using a bipod in the front, and then in the back I have a sandbag, sand sock. that I'm using to try and stabilize this a little bit. So I'm taking the 12 mil, putting it right across the shoulders of that target. Hit. Nope, I can see it. They're going a little bit to the left. Hold right just a little bit. Hit. Hit. Alright, that time I put the 4 mil at his head. Let me see if we have better luck with the 4 mil at his head. Go through another one. Yeah, so it's a challenge. It's not, 9mm at 200 yards on a 2 foot by 1 foot target. It's not easy. Hit. Hit. Never heard a thing. Hit. 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 All right. Right in his neckline. Hit. All right. So that I was right at his neckline with the 4 mil. Do another one. Hit. Hit. Send you guys back out. All right, so I think we got enough hits to about 30 shots out there. Enough hits to establish, I think, that with a 25-yard zero, or using this mill grid, if you're 4 mils at the neckline, you're gonna get hits. Okay. Now, like I said, it wasn't anywhere. I don't even think I was. Maybe I was like 30 or 40% hit rate. It's not easy. It's a challenge. 9mm was not designed to be shooting 200 yards at a target that is 2 foot by 1 foot. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm loving the scope, and I'm gonna keep it on this 9mm for a while because it really allows me to to make use of that grid, on a short at shorter distance. Because out here in the woods, I mean, I had to work pretty hard just to clear a 200-yard line, and I mean, I think I'm shooting through an area that's about this wide. Okay, so that's how wide my clearing is out to 200 yards. I have a different location that I go shoot at. That's a much bigger field, and we're gonna try and take this out a little bit further. Try and find I'll be using a bigger target and see what kind of hits we can get out there. I want to test the 300 yards and see if because like I said, I haven't tested it out with this scope, but I'm pretty sure based on my prior experience with shooting at 9mm at 300 yards that it's going to be the 10 mil mark at the top of the target at the head, basically, to drop them down and hit the center of the target. So thanks for watching. Make sure you guys follow me on all my channels because they back each other up. YouTube does nasty things to me sometimes. They ban me, suspend me, delete my videos. So this way I stay up somewhere. The other channel, the 3 channels are Pocono Shooting, Absolute Gun Rights, and then we got the original Safa channel that goes back to 2006. And then on the uncensored platforms, I've got Odyssey, where I'm Pocono Tactical. On Rumble, I'm Pocono Guns, and on BitChute, I'm Pocono Tactical. Look forward to seeing you guys again. Hey everyone, I decided to move in and we're going to shoot that same target now at 150 yards using that 2 mil mark. Let me zoom you guys in. You guys should be able to see a much clearer picture now. Now that I'm a little bit closer. So yeah, you can see that target now. White target with the red stripe at 150 yards. Same deal, you're listening to the pings. Same ammunition, Sergeant Major. Cooler. Same deal, we're using the 2 mil mark now, which is the first line. That's basically a piece of cake at the 150 yards on that 2-foot by 1-foot target. Let me zoom you guys back out. So yeah, big difference with the 9mm going from 150 yards where we are now to the 200 yards where we were before. I think at out to 180, because I shot this at 180 yards, I was doing pretty good. Much higher, it wasn't like this where I think I was like 9 out of 10. And I think I just got sloppy for some reason why I missed that one, because I was just like ding, 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 I really wasn't even trying that hard to keep the rifle steady. I mean, I just had to hear boom, boom, boom. I didn't even have a bag in the back. I left the bag over there, so I didn't have the rifle bagged in the back. So that's pretty easy. 150 yards, you're going to hit it easy. 180 yards, it starts getting a little bit more challenging, but I think my hit rate was still up at 80% or better. But then when you go from 180 yards to 200 yards, there's like a massive drop off, where I think I was maybe getting a 30% hit rate. So fun stuff. I mean, like I said, this is the Primary Arms Griffin scope. This is a $470 scope. So I think that, mounting this on a 9mm, if you're shooting, out to if you're at a location where all you get to shoot is 200 yards, putting this on a 9mm rifle is going to give you a chance to really start working with that scope and using that grid, and doing the bullet drops and the wind compensation. Because here's the thing, at this distance, at 150 yards, where I know I have pretty much like a 98% hit rate, 95 to 100, because a lot of times at this distance I'll get 100%. Because right now there's no wind. On days where I have like a 10 to 20 mile per hour wind, this is the distance to really start playing with the wind, you know, with those high winds, and seeing how how those wind adjustments are going to get. Because you know, when I'm shooting it further out, there's a lot of other factors now. The fact that just a bullet at 200 yards, 9mm, just it opens up too much. But at 150 yards, where I know I'm close to 100% accuracy, you know, I can come out here on a windy day and really start playing with this a little bit, seeing how that how the my how my wind expectations are going to match up on this grid. So we'll talk again soon.